Okay, class is now being recorded as we speak, so you'll still get the recording of the class. So I'll just need you guys to confirm. So every few minutes, I'll ask you guys if you are happy, we can move on, or if you have got any questions that you want to ask during the lesson. So if you have got any question, please raise the hand. If you don't have any question, please use the reaction where you get to put a thumbs up. You can put the reaction of putting a thumbs up and saying, no, we are good. We understood everything that is within the recordings or everything that I'm busy teaching you guys. So it's a reaction of thumbs up if you are okay and sorted. And it's a raise of hand if you have got any question. This is what is going to happen every time when you put a thumbs up and raise your hand. So we're going to start with our lesson, and when we start, I'm going to start with a recap of everything that we actually covered from lesson 1 up to lesson 4. Okay, here's our lesson. It's lesson number 5, and it's now Introduction to Business Mathematics. So lesson number 5 is no longer Introduction to Business Mathematics, but it is your So lesson number 5 going forward, we'll be covering chapter 2. We're already done with chapter 1, so we'll be covering basic mathematics. So before we start with basic mathematics, I'm going to start by actually explaining everything, a summary of everything we covered from the beginning of lesson 1 up until lesson 4. So we did cover the basics in terms of the number system used in South Africa. And after all the number system, we also perform some basic mathematical calculation where we get to add positive numbers, negative numbers. And the most important sections is where we get to cover the finance concept, where we started with the accounting equation. And I did say that the accounting equation, it is used to actually get to record financial transaction or any transaction that occur within the business. And for each and every transaction, I did mention that two accounts will be affected, and these two accounts, once they are affected, they will have to be recorded in terms of each and every transaction that occur within those accounts. And we also mentioned that for the system that is actually being used after two accounts are being identified, it's what we refer as the double entry system. So it was developed way back where for each and every transaction they always says that two or more account will be affected, and I always mention that on our previous lesson to say that the minimum account that can be affected are 2 and the maximum account that can be affected by one transaction are 4. And then we also mentioned that once you are analyzing transaction or recording transaction will have a number of effects on your accounting equation, and these effects will also have to be recorded. And some of those effects are that a transaction might increase both the assets and the liability and equity side, or might only increase one side, which is the equity side and liability side, or might only decrease the asset side alone, or it might decrease both side or as well as increase on one side. So we did mention that with this double entry system under the accounting equation, each and every account is gonna be classified within the general ledger. So it's gonna be we're gonna create a general ledger for each and every account, and that general ledger is in a T form, and it's gonna be having the debit and the credit side, where information for each and every transaction will either be recorded on the debit or the credit side. And we also covered that the assets of the companies increase on the debit side and decrease on the credit side, and the equity increases on the credit side and decrease on the debit side. But under equity, we've got income and expenses, where expenses does the opposite, where the expenses increase on the debit side and decrease on the credit side. And then we've got the liabilities, which increase on the credit side and decrease on the debit side. So those were the most important things that we covered from lesson 1 to lesson 5. And in addition, we also get to say that for each and every transaction that occur, we need to ask ourselves 3 questions while we're trying to analyze and record that transaction, to say that what was the event that took place. We need to make certain that we understand the event that took place or the transaction that took place. The second question was to identify which 2 accounts were affected, where once we identify the 2 accounts that were affected, we also had to classify this account whether they fall within the assets, equity, liability, income, or expenses. And then the third question was to say that what is the effect of this transaction in the accounting equation, where we get to apply the principle within the general ledger or the T account, where we get to say that if assets increase on the debit side and this is classified as an asset and it's actually increasing, therefore we're going to debit the following account. And then if it is an asset and it's decreasing, therefore we're going to credit that account because it's going to be showing a decrease within the credit side. So we also get to show those effects of plus or minus within our accounting equation, as well as within our general ledger. And we also covered the concept where that for each and every month or for each and every financial period that we get to close, we get to calculate or the general ledger balances, where we get to have our account called the balance sheet accounts, which falls within the balance sheet or statement of financial position. And then we also did mention that we also have got nominal accounts, where nominal accounts are those accounts that falls within the income statement. They are the ones that are drafted. They are made from our income and expenses account. And when you draft the trial balance, we only get to take the balances coming from our general ledger accounts. If we've got accounts that were classified as assets, equity, and liabilities, all of these accounts will be balanced off. And if we have got accounts that are classified as income and expense, all of these accounts will be totaled off. And once they are totaled off, all their totals and balances will therefore be transferred to what we call the trial balance. And from trial balance, we use those to prepare our statement of financial position, as well as our statement of comprehensive income or financial performance. Another terminology is income statement. So is there anyone with a question based on what we covered previously under lesson 1 to 4? Is there someone who have got any struggle? Please note that uh, you can use the chat section to ask a question if you don't have a question, or if you have a question, it's long, you can use raise your hand. I'll give you the mic and you can ask that question. If I ask that, do you guys have got any question, and there are no question, can we move forward? Then I would like to see thumbs up, because that's when I'll notice that you guys are still here and you are in the class, or you didn't just open the Teams and leave it running and go and do some stuff somewhere else. So should we move forward? No question. Should we move forward? Okay, thank you for the confirmation. So let's move forward. So this is a financial position of an enterprise. It can be expressed as follows. So this is still the summary of everything that I was just busy explaining on the previous slide, to say that one of the things that I also explained is that the accounting equation, it's a what we call, it's a full journal within the accounting system, to say this is where we get to record all our transaction. And then we've got the statement of financial position, which is a summary of our accounting equation. The reason I'm saying that statement of financial position is a summary is because it does not include transactions that were performed. It only shows the balances within each and every line item or each and every account, to say that for this account this is the balance that we ended the year with, and then for this account this is the balance that we ended up with. So it's just a summary of everything that happened within the accounting equation. So once you are done preparing your accounting equation and your general ledger, all of these balances will only be shown within your statement of financial position, which is showing the summary of everything that happened during the particular year or during the financial period. And then down here it's talking about the type of account that were affected. Just we did perform a number of activities where we try to actually get to make sure that you understand the types of transaction that you might come across and how to record them, and which two account will be affected, and how are these account gonna be affected, and the changes that is gonna happen within those account. Here they've given an example to say that when you sell a stock item, there will be a changes in the stock account, and there will be a change in the bank account or the debtors account. And when you buy stock to resell, there's also going to be changes in your stock account, and therefore there's going to be changes in your cash or creditors account. So those are the accounts that will be affected. So here we've got an activity. I hope you didn't manage to see all of those. They were there because I was doing a class online yesterday with the part-timers, so I ended up writing them. So I want us to actually get to perform this activity. So what I'm gonna do is that when we perform each and every activity, I'm gonna unmute you guys, and you'll actually have to raise your hand, or I'll just point you out, and then you will unmute yourself and then ask that question or answer the question if I requested you to answer the question. So I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Try to solve this. Which account should be debited, which account should be credited? So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. This is still a recap of everything that we covered lastly. So I just want to make sure that your mind is still fresh, and you still remember everything that we did on the last 2 weeks under the 4 lessons. So let's start. Account debited and account credited. 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to complete the activity, and then once you are done, I will know that you guys are aware of everything that we just covered last week. You understand the concept, you understand the application as well. So 5 minutes. While you are writing within these 5 minutes, I'm gonna quickly unmute you. I'm just gonna find a way to unmute you through the other device that I do have. Okay, 2 minutes remaining. Okay, 1 minute remaining. Okay, the time is up. Let's see. I'm just gonna call you out and then you're gonna try and answer the first one. If you feel, I'm gonna answer it and then call the second person, and then from there we're just gonna take it from there. Let's start with Amukelani Banda. So can you try to unmute your mic and let us know in terms of the first one to see if what did you actually manage to get. What is the account debited and what is the account credited, and how did you manage to get there? Amukelani, I see your mic is unmuted, but I can't hear anything. Amukelani. Okay, let me just quickly check this side if I see you're actually talking, but there's no audio transmitting to my side. Okay, we're just gonna come back to you. Nope, I can't hear you at all. Your mic is unmuted and I can see that you're talking, but there's no audio that is actually coming from my side. So, okay, I'll ask Handsome Muremi to actually assist you since your mic is actually not working. Handsome Muremi, can you try to assist us? The first one, which account should be debited and which account should be credited?
I think expenses should be debited.
Okay,
Hello, sir.
the reason behind.
It's because you're selling you're selling advertising for cash.
Okay, if you're selling, then where's the expense when you're selling? Okay, how many of you do understand what advertising space is? Can I see by raise of hands? Those who understand what advertising space is? Okay, Ezra does understand. Amukelani Panda does understand. So we only have got two people that understand. So let's give this to Amukelani. Can you unmute and see if you actually can be able to talk? If you can be able to hear your audio now, just try to unmute. Okay, if you're using a PC, please check your PC if this mic is on. It's not disabled, to make sure that your computer is actually allowing your mic to be used, because you can unmute on Teams and find that your computer mic is actually turned off. Because I cannot see. Since Ezra does know, can you, Ezra, please assist us on the first question?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. So I think the best way to explain advertising space would be, for example, space that is used, that someone else pays for, so they can advertise on your property. For example, like it could be used like for a delivery car, even like someone could advertise their company on like a car or something like that.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. Then now comes to the question to say that now you sell advertising space for cash. So it's your business. You're running a media company, which also have got billboards, and then now you also have got this big screen where you also get people to advertise on for like 5 minutes advert, 3 minutes advert that plays around while people are just passing by and watching those adverts. So now you sold one of those space. So now once you sell them, you sell it for cash. So here's the transaction, you sell them for cash. So now I want to know which account should be debited, which account should be credited within your business.
Bank
Bank should be do what?
should be debited.
Reason behind?
Because money is coming into it's an income. It's going
Okay,
into your bank account.
100% right. And then the account to be credited?
Account credited would be advertising space or
Okay.
advertising.
Yeah, you're still correct. It's still gonna be advertising, but there should be a word before the word advertising so that we know what type of advertising is it? Is it an expense or an income?
Yeah, income.
So if your company deals with actually selling advertising space, it means that this is how you generate revenue. So meaning that you're gonna say sales, and then after the sales word, you're gonna write advertising space to show that you actually sold advertising space, meaning that your sales are gonna be going up. So you're still correct. You're gonna credit account. You're gonna the account that will be credited will be your sales, but that sales have to be identified that it's a advertising space sales account to show that the sales account is going up by advertising sales, not by goods sales, so that you can still be able to track all your information. Amukelan, I still see that your hand is still raised. Do you have a question, or it's just a mistake? Okay, you can lower that. So I'm just gonna explain some of the things that maybe I might did not explain previously. So, but I think I did on one of the lesson. So what actually happens is that when you're running a media company, you might run it with different within different sectors. You might have to run it where you actually get to manufacture something and sell it. In terms of manufacturing, you might find that you're manufacturing what we call banners, you're manufacturing stands that are going to be used for banners. So you're still within the media cover, you're still within the media sector, but under manufacturing. So everything that you do a complete process from manufacturing of everything up until it becomes a finished product and you sell it to your customer. So sometimes you find that you are not actually producing, you are actually just buying and what we call finished goods from a supplier, and then you create the banners and you sell them to what we call you sell them to your clients. So normally meaning that that business will have got different ways of actually generating revenue or sales, meaning that it can either sell its item to its client. That will be meaning that they will have sales from goods sold. So meaning that that sales will be from goods sold, and you can also get to sell space for advertising. So that will be sales for advertising space. So that sales does not have cost, does not have what we call normally cost of sales, because you are just giving the person a space to advertise. So whatever they pay you, you pay them. You'll only incur expenses to make sure that that space is always available for some people to use that to advertise. For example, you might only have an expense to pay for electricity, which is going to be used to power up that big screen that is on the public sidewalk, so that people can be able to see. So that's the only expense that you're gonna incur, and that expense, we cannot call it cost of sales. It's just only gonna be an expense that is used to assist you generate revenue like any other expense. So when you have got advertising space, you don't have inventory at all. And then on top of that, if you are a journalist yourself and you open a company, and people can actually hire you to go and do what you call live broadcasting at an event or at some incident that happened on the road. For example, there's an incident like that happened yesterday of a truck just hitting many cars, and then SABC just called and say, "You are one of our contractors. We want you to go there and actually give us a report that is gonna be broadcasted online." So that is a service. You are actually rendering a service. You want to have stock, so they're going to pay you for the service that you render for them. So if it says you rendered service for cash, so meaning that the account that is going to be credited is no longer going to be sales, but it's going to be services rendered, to show that, okay, I did render a service to someone and they pay me. So my services rendered account will go up. But if it's a space or it's an item, we're going to have sales, and the sales account, we're going to specify by in brackets to say that this was from advertising space, or this was for inventory that was sold, so that we get to be specific within our information, so that we are able to track whether we're making more sales on advertising space or on selling goods. So the second question, so here under our activity, so you were right, it's gonna be bank, and then this side we're gonna have sales, but under sales it's gonna say advertising. So it's gonna say advertising space. And then our second question is to say that we buy goods on credit. So we have got who do we have here? We have got Ntombi. Can you please assist us with the account debited and account credited under this transaction? Tombi, you can unmute yourself and help us by identifying the account that will be debited and account that will be credited.
Sir, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, sir. I'm not too sure, but I think the account debited would be capital, and the account credited would be inventory.
You said account debited will be,
Would be capital.
and account credited,
Account credited, I think it would be bank.
and which, and the reason behind?
Because okay, it can't be the bank. Okay, I'm not sure, sir. I'm not sure.
Okay, let's see who can actually come in to assist. We've got Mapule. Can you please come in and assist? She managed to identify one account which was correct, the other accounts was incorrect. But even the way it was debited, it was also incorrect. So can you please assist? Mapule?
Can you hear me, sir?
Loud and clear.
Well, I'm not sure, but I think the account debited will be bank and the account credited would be inventory.
Okay, you managed to identify one account correct, but the treatment is actually incorrect.
Okay.
Kelan, I see your hand was up. Do you want to attempt? Try to unmute and see if your mic is now working. Okay, I see the mic is not working, and I see Ezra, your hand was up first. Do you have any question, or you want to try to attempt?
I was gonna attempt.
Okay, let's hear your attempt.
The account debited would it not be inventory, and then credited would be creditors control.
Okay, what is the other terminology for creditors control?
Um, um, I'm not quite sure.
Okay, you're 100% correct. Yes, Ntombi, I see your hand is still up.
Oh, yes, sir. I wanted to ask because I saw someone wrote on the group, would account credited be expenses since we are buying goods for the business?
Okay, this is what happened, guys. So the reason I put it this activity, it's similar to the one that we treat in class. So I just wanted to see if you guys were paying attention and you were following up. And so far, what I'm picking is that most of you haven't actually practiced anything that we covered lastly. And you said you did understand, but you didn't manage to understand much in terms of the account to be debited, account to be credited. And so far, I think Ezra and some few have actually managed to get some few points right, and but Ezra managed to get all the points right. So what's happening on the transaction is I said that when you're dealing with each and every transaction, you have got three questions that you need to ask yourself. What happened? Meaning that what is the event that took place, or what are we actually doing under this transaction? So it says buy goods on credit, meaning that we are going to buy stock, and then when we're buying that stock, we're not paying with our cash. We are buying it on credit from someone else. So which means that now we need to identify the account. So when you identify the account, it means that if you are buying stock, your inventory is going to be affected. That is the first account that will be affected. The second is that are you buying on cash or credit? So you are buying on credit. So once you are buying on credit, it means that your account payables or your trade creditors or credit control will be affected, meaning that it's gonna be going up. Now comes to the question of classifying these two accounts that we identify, inventory and account payable. And then once you identify the inventory that it's an assets, so assets it's increasing since we're buying stock, it's coming in. So assets increase on the debit side, so meaning that we are going to debit inventory. And then we're gonna go and say on the credit side, and our account payable, which is our creditors. Therefore, we are increasing our debt from our creditors since we are buying on credit. So meaning that our debt is going to be going out, and that account will be classified as a liability, and liability increase on the credit side. So therefore, we are going to credit that account to show that it's increasing. So I also did mention previously that when you are dealing with accounting equation or transaction, what will actually happen is that some within the same transaction, the account that will be affected will actually be also mentioned within the transaction. One or both of the accounts to be affected will actually be mentioned within the transaction. So Ntombi, I still see your hand is up. Do you have got a question or it's a mistake? Okay, I see it's down. So the third question is to say make payment to municipality, water and electricity. So we're paying the municipality, water and electricity. So under this account, we're gonna ask ourselves what is actually happening. We are making a payment to the municipality, so there's no word of credit, meaning that this will actually be a cash payment to the municipality because we used water on credit and then we get billed month end and we make payment to the municipality for water and electricity that we used during that whole month. So we're actually making payment for water and electricity to municipality. So that's how we get to understand the event that took place. Now the question is which account were affected? So if we're making payment, our bank account is gonna go down because money is going out. And then the water and electricity account from the municipality will actually be going up because we are paying it. So the municipality account will actually go up so that we paid water and electricity this much this month. So that account will actually go up, and therefore we now left to classify the accounts. Bank, it's an asset, it's decreasing. So if bank is an asset and it's decreasing, which side is it decreasing by? So it's a credit side, meaning that we are going to credit the bank account, and we come to the water and electricity account from the municipality. So you can call an account municipality, but inside brackets you need to write to say this account, that is municipality. Which account are we paying from the municipality? Are we paying water and electricity? Are we paying our rates? Are we paying our sewage? Or we are paying levies? So it depends on which you have to specify so that you are aware of what type of account you are paying within the municipality. So instead of actually just doing that, we just created an account called water and electricity and do not specify municipality, as long as you understand that we are paying for our water and electricity usage. So therefore the account that will be debited is gonna be the water and electricity. It's an expense, and expense increase on the debit side. So therefore we're gonna have water and electricity being debited. And then this side we said bank. Under this one we said account payable. And then here we said the account was inventory. And then we come to the section where it says buy goods for cash. So if you're buying goods for cash, it means that this time, this transaction, it's similar to this one. Under this one, you were buying on credit. Under this one, you are buying on cash. So meaning that this time you're still buying inventory. Inventory is gonna go up. And then since you are buying for cash, your bank account is gonna go down. So you'll have to classify inventory, it's an asset. Bank, it's still an asset. Which one is increasing, which one is decreasing, the effect. So we're gonna start with the inventory. Inventory it's increasing, so therefore we're gonna debit it as assets increase on the debit side. So you're gonna have your inventory, and then under the account to be credited you're gonna have your bank account since money is moving. So the third last question, sell goods on credit. Anyone would like to attempt this one? Sell goods on credit. Anyone would like to attempt? Anyone? There's no one who would like to attempt this one. So under sell goods on credit, it means that you are selling something to someone, but this time the person is not actually giving you money. So if the person is not giving you money, meaning that your bank account will not go up, but the people who gets to owe you, that account will go up, and that account we refer it as account payables. So therefore, we need to classify account payable, and when we classify it, it's an asset account because you're still gonna receive that money. So therefore, if it's an asset account and it's increasing, therefore we're gonna have our debtors or trade account receivable, not account payable, sorry, account receivable, which is our debtors account, going up. So meaning that we're gonna debit account receivables. And then the other account that will be credited will be sales, as our sales is going up because we are selling goods. And then it says pay creditor. We bought from our creditor previously, and when we bought from our creditors, we actually had now created a debt for ourselves which we have to pay. Now we are paying that creditor back to say that we bought on credit from you. Now we are actually paying back. Then now it's a matter of identifying which two accounts will be affected. So already, if you can see, it says creditor, so meaning creditor's account is already affected within this transaction. And since we are paying, meaning that now our bank account is gonna be going down. So meaning that when bank goes down, we get to credit the bank because that's the side it decreased by. And creditors account increase on the credit side, and this time we are paying back, meaning that it's gonna be, our debt is gonna be going down. So meaning that we'll have to debit that account. So meaning that we're gonna have your account payable this side, and you're gonna have your bank this side. And then once we refer to capital contribution, whether it's the first time contribution or additional capital contribution, bank is gonna go up and the capital account of the person depositing the money into the business will actually go up to, so that this person have invested this much within the business and this is their current balance. So therefore the bank is gonna go up and bank goes up on the debit side. So we're gonna have bank being debited and capital account being credited as it increase on the credit side. So if this is capital for me, so I'm just gonna write my name afterwards to indicate that this capital contribution is from me, in case if there are other what we call investors. So do you guys have got any questions? Any question?
So,
Any?
I wanted
Yes.
to ask, when you buy goods on credit or you do anything on credit, does that does that mean that it's account payables?
Yes, it's always gonna be account payables when you buy anything on credit, because that's a short-term debt or short-term loan.
Oh, okay.
So if you took a loan from the bank, so we're gonna have what we call a long-term loan account and your bank increasing instead of account payables. So account payable, it means that you are going to pay that account within a specific short period of time, like within a year. And then when you took a 5-year loan, that's a long-term loan. So you're gonna write it as long-term loan account. And then that will be credited as well, and then your bank will be debited. When do we include banks? So you only include bank if you are paying or receiving money. If you are paying someone through money like cash, that's when your bank is affected. And if you are actually getting to uh, receive money from someone, that's when also your bank account will show a debit, meaning that you are receiving money. And when money is going out, we credit the bank account. So the bank account is mostly affected in most transactions. It's very rare to find the bank account not repeating more than 60% of from all the transactions that occurred within the company, because money is going in and out within the bank. And could we find out about the past paper? Would like to go through them. Unfortunately, I do not have I don't have the old papers. The only things that I was given was the textbook and just few material to build up the lessons plan. But I will get to ask that for you. So that is all in terms of revision. Please make sure, guys, that you practice, you understand this, because part of your assessment is already mentioned that you're going to be dealing with financial statements as well as preparation of income statements. So make sure that you understand all of this terminology and how to prepare these financial statements. So coming now to our lesson. Coming now to our lesson. Lesson 5, start from page 60 to page 74. So we already done the first assessment briefing, which you're gonna be given the date very soon to say when are you going to write. So today's lesson have got videos that you can actually watch, or which I believe some of you have already watched them. So some of those videos include the BODMAS, the laws, and the finding the missing number, as well as averages. So while we are busy going through the presentation, you'll also notice that there will be some links that will assist you to understand each and every concept better. So in terms of the previous lesson 1 to lesson 4, please make sure that you take a look very carefully on page 26 up to page 36. So page 26 to 36, 36 is actually showing you which which type of account increase on which side. So if it's an expense, it's gonna show you those. So make sure that you master that, and you also master the types of account classification to say that, okay, we've got expenses, we've got this type of account, this account fall within expenses, this account fall within assets, this account fall within income. So you still need to be able to do that. So the learning outcome of this lesson is that by the end of today's lesson, you should be able to apply the order of operation, which is the BODMAS, which we already covered on our lesson 1, commutative, associate, and distribution laws, finding a missing figure, average, and then we're also going to talk about the power and exponents. Power and exponents goes hand in hand together, and then we're also going to talk about the root, which also goes hand in hand together with the powers. And then later on, we already covered the mental arithmetic and square arithmetic, which and at this side they're just more emphasizing on it to say that you need to master it in order for you to be able to make fast and quick decision where it involves money flowing in and flowing out of the business or within your personal life. So starting with the BODMAS, so orders of operation, this is now starting from page 60 of your textbook. Please be aware that I will be using a soft copy book, which the soft copy book I am not allowed to share it because of copyright and other breaking confidentiality within my agreement or contract. So if you want the ebook, you can sign up for it on the Edge Education. I believe it's there, and then you can also be able to download it. I believe you'll have to pay a certain fee to actually get the ebook. So on my side, unfortunately, it's a signing of confidential agreement and signing that it won't be shared, and that's it. So once it's there to be shared, and then they're gonna also be able to notice that I'm the one that shared it because it's unlocked under my PC and it's containing information of my drive within it. So finance in media, page 60. So introduction to chapter 2, it says that in chapter 1 we outline the role of metrics and finance in business and explain how mathematics and statistics and finance can be used in various disciplines associated within the media industry. So in this chapter we'll be taking more in-depth look at the role of mathematics in business. So we're going to start by looking in terms of the order of operation going forward based on our learning outcome. So some of the importance in terms of business mathematics can be seen from people who actually do what we call graphic design. So for someone who's actually doing graphic design, they use mathematics on a daily basis. For example, to in a place where if a client comes in and says that is the picture that I supplied good enough and will it be visible or clear? So as a graphic designer, you will go and open either your Canvas software or website or your Photoshop software, and then you'll put that picture within, and you're gonna measure the margins that you'll have to use to expand that picture and make sure that it's visible and it's not overstretched and all of that. So meaning that if it's overstretching and everything, you will have to ask the client to say that the picture that you provided is small enough. We need a picture of this following margin, which is the space and size of the picture, and therefore it will be able to fit within our frame, which the frame is the following meter. So which means that everything that you do within the business, it doesn't matter which side you are, mathematics will always play a role. And then under finance, this is where mathematics just comes into play more of the time. So our first concept is the order of operation within chapter 2, which is the BODMAS rule, where we get to make sure that you need to understand the BODMAS rule. So the BODMAS rule are always done first. Under the BODMAS rule, we've got the brackets, the of, the division, the multiplication, the addition and subtraction, which is a summary, which is summarized to BODMAS. So we've got the B representing brackets, which are always done first, and we've got the O representing orders or in orders or of, which indicate multiplication if it's an of, and it is next in line after the what, the brackets. And then we've got the division, which follow next after the of or orders. And then we've got the M, which is for multiplication, which uses an x as a sign and is next after the division. And we've got the addition and subtraction at a later stage. So normally the two, division and multiplication, can be done simultaneously if they are there within the same equation, and addition and subtraction can also be done within the same equation, simultaneously within the same equation, because they have got the same weight. For example, if you say 7 plus 5 minus 3, so it means that even if you start by saying 5 minus 3, you're gonna get 2, and you say 2 plus 7, you're gonna get 9. So same applies if you go and say 7 plus 5, you're gonna get 12, minus 3, you're still gonna get 9. So meaning that the minus and the subtraction and the addition have got the same weight. Same applies to the division and multiplication. They also have the same weight. So that is why this side, if you can see from the screen, that the D and M for division and multiplication share the same color, and the addition and subtraction share the same color. So the O represent the of or the orders, where the orders is either the square root or x squared, meaning that if these are also there within your equation, you will actually have to apply those first before you do the division, multiplication, subtraction and addition. So this is an activity relating to the BODMAS rule, which I believe most of you are already familiar with. So I'm just gonna pick up something and just do few as we go on downwards. So for the first one, it says 5 multiplied by, in brackets, 2 plus 4, which is equals to 30. So you're gonna start with everything in brackets and then later on multiply with a 5, because we start with the brackets before the of or any other thing. So we're gonna go and say 4 plus 2, which is 6. 6 times 5 giving us 30. And then on the second activity, it says 9 plus 1 out of 2 of 10 equals to 14. So if we're to calculate this, we're going to say 1 of 2, which is of 10, is the same as 1 over 2 multiplied by 10. So 1 over 2 multiplied by 10 is actually going saying 10 divided by 2, giving us 5. And 5 plus 9 is going to equal to 14. But if you go and say 9 plus 1 out of 2, which is a half, it's going to get you 9,5 or 9.5, which is of 10. Therefore, you're going to say 9.5 of 10, and then it's going to give you a totally complete different answer, which is going to be incorrect based on the mathematics standard. And then this one here, we've got multiplication on both sides, where we've got multiplication where it says 8 multiplied by 3 and 1 multiplied by 7. 1 multiplied by 7, and all of these are being added together. So because there is a multiplication within this, so what you're going to do is that you're going to apply the multiplication on the left and the multiplication on the right simultaneously, and then later on add the final amounts and then get your final figure. So you're gonna go and say 1 times 7 giving you 7, 8 times 3 giving you 24, and therefore 7 plus 24 giving you final answer of 31. And then where you have got an answer like this, a question like this to say 3 times 4 divided by 2, it doesn't matter which one you start with under this scenario, they all have the same weight, the multiplication and division. So you can go and say 4 divided by 2, that's gonna give you 2, and then you go and say 2 multiplied by 3 giving you 6, or you go and say 3 multiplied by 4, it's gonna give you 12, and say 12 divided by 2, it's gonna give you 6. So they both hold the same weight. So here under this scenario they are also showing you to say that if only multiplication and division calculation are done, it is recommended that they are done from left to right. So the division and the multiplication in both mass are equal in strength, so therefore you can perform them, all of them simultaneously. But because here we don't have the plus sign in between, so we're going to start from left to right, meaning that we're going to say 3 times 4 and then divide by 2 giving us 6. But if there was a plus sign somewhere in between and we've got a multiplication on the other side, division on the other side, therefore we're going to still apply the same thing. Start by doing the multiplication on the left and then do the division that is on the right, and then add everything together. So that is under the BODMAS rule. So please make sure that you understand that. The second part is working with a divide line where your numerator is no longer a whole number or just an ordinary integer. So meaning that under this one where you work with a divide line, you find that your numerator is actually an equation on top, and below we also, under the denominator, we also have got a full equation or full calculation that have to be performed. So when you perform this type of calculation within the same equation, what you actually do is that you start with the one on the top, which is the numerator, and then you also perform the one that is below, which is the denominator, and you perform this simultaneously. So when I say perform this simultaneously, I'm saying that when you write equals to, you're going to start by calculating whatever is on top based on the BODMAS rule. You put it this side, calculate whatever is in below, then put it this side. But if you are not following the simultaneous process, what you're gonna do is that you're gonna start by following the BODMAS rule on top, put it this side and say divide, copy exactly what is written here, put it below until you manage to finish solving the one on top, and then you move towards solving the one below. So that's not following the simultaneous solving approach. So simultaneously means that you'll perform the one on top and then perform the one below at the same time. So under this equation, we're still gonna apply the BODMAS. So we're gonna look at this and say what does the BODMAS rule says, brackets of division multiplication. So we don't have brackets, we don't have of or orders, we don't have division on the top one, we only have multiplication as our first start. So we're going to start by multiplying this first and say 6 times 3 giving us 18. So therefore the first simplest of this will be 7 plus 18 minus 13. And then we go below and go and say brackets. Yes, we do have brackets, but inside brackets we still have now to restart again. Do we have brackets inside brackets? If you have got brackets inside brackets, for example, this was also brackets, 3 multiplied by 6 was also brackets. So meaning that you are going to start by this within in your brackets. Or if 6 plus 3 was within brackets, instead of you saying 6 times 3, because there is already brackets inside brackets, you're gonna still start with the brackets inside the brackets, which is gonna be 6 plus 3 giving you 9, then multiply by 6. But under this scenario we only have got one bracket and nothing inside brackets, so we look for off, and then we don't have, we look for division, we don't have, we look for multiplication, we do have. So you're gonna go and say 3 multiplied by 6 still giving you 18, and 18 plus 6 giving you 24. So when you go down, you're gonna go and say this is my equation after I've done the apply the first BODMAS rule. On the first one is gonna say 7 plus 18 minus 13 divided by 24 divided by under division line 24 divided by 6, and then you're gonna stand solve. 7 plus 18 minus 13, they all have the same weight, so you can start with each any and then complete. So and because they have the same weight, We will start from left to right, which is 7 plus 18 giving us 25 minus 13 giving us final answer of 12. And then here we've got 24 divided by 6 giving us 4. So our final answer will be 12 divided by 4 giving us 3. So these are practice questions that you need to perform. And our second section is talking about what we call commutative, association, and distributive law. So those are what we call the law within the mathematics. So please just give me 1 second, then we'll continue with the laws within mathematics that gets to be applied. Okay, thank you very much for the time. I'm back. So in terms of the laws that are used in mathematics, we've got the first type of law, which is called the commutative law. So the commutative law says that you can swap numbers around and still get the same answer, but only when you are adding and when you're only multiplying. For example, a plus b, you can still go and change this and swap them around and say b plus a. So meaning that you will still get the same answer. 3 times 4 or a times b, you still go and say b times a. You still get the same answer. If we're using numbers to say 3 times 4 will still give you 12 and 4 times 3 will still give you what? The same answer. So we call it what we call the cumulative law. And then again, we've got the associative law. So the associative law says that it does not matter how you group the numbers together. So if we are multiplying, you can actually regroup the numbers if all numbers are being multiplied together. So meaning that you'll still get the same answer. I'll give you an example to say that if we are saying 4 times 3 times 2, so your final answer will actually be 24. So even if you actually go and say, instead of me saying 4 times 3 first, I'm just gonna say 3 times 2 first and then multiply by 4. So 3 times 2 will actually give you 6, and if you say 6 times 4 will actually give you 24. So you can still play as long as all the numbers are being multiplied. You can switch the number or the order in which way you want to calculate, as well as within adding. So if you are adding number and there are also number inside brackets, as long as all numbers are positive, so therefore you can still switch them around and still get to the same answer. If for example, I'm gonna use the same example, 4 plus 3 and then outside brackets plus 2. Even if you go and say, let's start with 2 plus 3, then later on plus 4, which is outside the brackets, you still get the same answer. And then we've got the distributive law. So the distributive law, it's a bit different. It says that if you get the same answer, you can get the same answer when you multiply a number by a group of number added together or to each other during your multiplication. So if you are multiplying a number with things that are inside the brackets, and the numbers that are inside the brackets are actually b plus c, so meaning that you can actually go and just say a multiplied by b multiplied as well as plus a multiplied by c. So here there is also a link within the video, which the link you can actually get to use it to actually get to view some other explanation in terms of the commutative, associative, and distribution. So the link can be simplified, can actually be done or simplified. Under the link, the person will actually simplify the process that I'm actually explaining to you guys. So going back to your textbook, so here they've actually given an example of what we call an associative law, to say that you can actually switch the numbers around. If you are actually going to say in brackets 2 plus 4 plus 5 later on. So which means that you can go and instead of doing this and go and say 2 plus in brackets 4 plus 5 close brackets. So it will still give you the exact same answer. And under distributive law, they've given an example to go and say, if you were to say 7 multiplied by in brackets 2 plus 9, so this will actually equal to 77, because we're gonna go and say 2 plus 9 will actually be 11, and 11 multiplied by 77 giving us by 7 giving us 77. So this is actually the same as to go and say 7 multiplied by 2 giving us 14, and then we go and say 7 multiplied by 9 giving us 63. So therefore we're going to say 63 plus 14, this will give us 77. So this is also shown here to say that this is how you can actually get to perform this activity. So any question so far? Any question? Anyone with a question? Is there anyone with a question? Okay, are you all excited? Can we move forward? Okay, I believe we are all excited. We can actually get to move forward. So moving forward, so it said that so the distribution law states that you get the same answer when you multiplied a number by a group of numbers being added together, or do each multiplication separately then add them. So this is the example that they give you, and they also give you another additional example to say that 16 times 6 plus 16 times 4 can actually give you the same answer, 16 in bracket multiplied by in bracket 6 plus 4, because we have got the same number multiplying both the numbers. So here it says that these laws are only applicable to work with addition or multiplication, not division or subtraction. So, and also the cumulative law does not work for division. And they also give you an example to show that 12 divided by 3, you cannot actually get to use the cumulative law on this one to say 3 divided by 12. So you cannot switch them because you're not gonna get the exact same answer. So it's not the same as going and saying 4 times 3, and you can actually go and say 3 times 4. So you cannot switch because now you're gonna get a quarter. 1 over 4 is exactly as a quarter, which is 0.25, which is not equal to 4. And then the associative law does not work for subtraction. So if you have got one number that is positive here within the brackets, and then you said 9 minus 4 outside brackets minus 3, you will not get what we call the exact answer even if you switch them around. So meaning that only if this is also negative, meaning that if it's negative, we assume that all these numbers are going to be added to, we just add all of them together, meaning that we're actually doing addition. It doesn't work for subtraction. And then the distributive law does not work for division. So if we're saying 8 divided by 2 plus 6, we cannot go and say 8 divided by 2 plus 8 divided by 6. It won't give us the exact same answer, because 8 divided by 6 is going to give us an improper fraction called 4 out of 3. So meaning that we're going to end up saying 8 divided by 2 giving us 4, and then plus 4 divided by 3. Which of these is going to give us a final answer of 8 over 3, which is true whole number 2 out of 3, which is no longer equal to 1. So meaning that it does not work. So in summary, commutative law only works when numbers are being added together and multiplied together. And then associative law only works where also numbers are being added together or multiplied together. And there is other numbers in brackets multiplying each other as well. And distributive law only work when numbers inside are actually being added together and they're being multiplied by one number outside the brackets. So those are what we call the laws within mathematics: commutative law, associative law, and distributive law. Anyone with a question? So no question. So we're gonna do what we call finding the missing figure. So finding the missing figure plays a huge role within finance. So normally we always get to misplace or misrecord some transaction. So you find that you're actually supposed to record a transaction and you didn't actually get to perform that transaction. You skipped the transaction, and then your bank account will actually show that you skipped the transaction because it have got more money than what your books are actually showing you. So you find that, for example, I'm just gonna use this one here to say that your inventory system is showing that you actually sold 508 chocolate bars, and then it's also showing you only sold candy light 160, chocolate light 220, but it's not showing you how much you sold in terms of cream light, meaning that you forgot to record this down. So meaning that you can use the total to actually get to find how much creamy light you actually get to sell between that particular period or that day. So here it says that the following table shows the sales in figure, which are in units, of three different chocolate bars called the Candy Light, Chocolate, Creamy Light at a retail outlet during a particular week. So now the question is to say, can you actually find the missing figures that are within these, all of these? So if you can take a look under Sunday, you will notice that Sunday does not have candy light, chocolate light, creamy light, but it have a total to say that 524 in total of all chocolate bars have been sold. So the question to actually solve this is that you will have to solve other question first for you to be able to get to this question here. Because if you are trying to solve for this one under the chocolate bar, you will notice that chocolate bar, chocolate light have got missing figures on Tuesday, I've got missing figures on Thursday, I've got missing figures on Saturday. So you might have to find a pattern to work around. So this is part of mathematics and finance all combined together. So under this one, when we start by solving, we're going to take a look into the one that we can actually solve the fastest. So we've got Monday. We can actually solve this first by saying 508 minus all the other chocolates that we sold to get the creamy light chocolate. So this is the activity. So if we're to say find for x, so we're gonna assume that creamy light is actually x. So we're actually solving for x. So we're gonna say 160 plus 220 plus x, which x is representing creamy light, is gonna equal to 508. Therefore, we can actually get to solve for x. And when we solve for x, it's gonna be saying x equals to 508, and then this is gonna be transferred this side, and all of them are gonna become negative. So therefore, we're gonna have 508 minus 160 minus 220, meaning that now we are left with 128, meaning that our x is 128. Therefore, creamy light chocolate sold are 128. And then you will do the same for Tuesday to say that 100 plus x plus 156 will be equals to 440. Therefore, you're going to go and solve for this x by saying 440 minus 100 minus 156. This will give you the specific answer for this specific chocolate. And then you do the same for Wednesday. But when you come to Thursday, you will notice that Thursday I've got two missing figures. So what actually happened is that we try to look and this under a different approach. The approach we're using is that we're using a total to find the missing figure within the three chocolates and the total of all chocolates sold. But this time we can't do that because we don't have the total. But we can actually get to find the total if we look on our data. So if we look on our data, you will notice that we've got total for Monday, total for Tuesday, Wednesday, and total for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as well as the full total for the whole week. So meaning that we can actually use the total for the whole week to actually find the total for Thursday by going and say 508 plus 540 plus 412 plus x, which x will represent Thursday, uh, plus Friday 480 plus Saturday 580 plus Sunday 524 will equal to 3400. And then we'll solve for x by saying x is equal to 3400 minus all of these other totals, and then it will give us the total for Thursday, which is the one that we have here within the calculation here. So we're gonna have 456 as our Thursday total, and from our Thursday total we'll calculate what? The chocolate missing figure. And then we do the same for Friday. We can apply the same principle that we did for 80 minus 140, 192. Same applies to Saturday, and from Saturday, meaning that now from Monday to Saturday will be complete once we complete up to Saturday. Therefore, we have got totals for the whole week for chocolate, meaning that we can use the total from Monday, the ones that we solve from Monday to Saturday, all chocolate, and then subtract them from total to get the one for Sunday. So I've got an activity which I want us to do. So normally when you see solve for x, most people get to be traumatized by it. So here we've got another YouTube video that you can actually watch. There is a link here that will also explain and also give you example of calculating or solving for missing figures. So my question now is, you have got the following. You run a company called Bright Light Media. Your quarter one sales figure for advertising slots, which is the space, are as follow. For people who advertise for 1.5 minutes, 25 people actually came in and bought the slot. And then for 3 minutes in January, we didn't record. And for 3.5 minutes we have 40 clients that we sold the slots to. For 5 minutes slot we sold 25, and during February this is the information, and then we have got the totals. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna quickly check the time. Okay, we're under 25 minutes, so I want you to only do 3 for me. I'm giving you 3 minutes. Just perform 3 for me, to say that you don't have to follow the order of A, B, C, D, E, F. Just only solve 3 missing figure for me in the next coming 3 minutes. And 3 minutes I believe is too much, but I'm gonna give you the 3 minutes. 3 minutes, you have 3 minutes to solve for one of the 3 missing figures here. You don't have to follow the pattern. Okay, 1 minute remaining. Okay, let's see from those who are currently remaining. Moremi, which one did you start by solving for?
I did see, sir.
You did C, and how much did you
For
get?
February. For February, sir.
How did you do it?
I got 53.
Do you all other agree? So you went and say 149 minus 34, 40, and 20, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's 100% right. And Mapula, which one did you start with?
I started with the first one.
Which is?
The answer, oh,
You started with number A.
yes, like the 1.5 minutes.
And how much did you get for A?
Wait a minute. Oh, I got 79.
You went and say 79 for A.
That's 34 plus 20. Yes, I get it. It's the total. It's like E. Are we not calculating the total for?
Oh, you mean you
Oh,
started with A?
yes, sorry.
Oh, all right. I thought you said A.
Oh, sorry, no.
No, that's 100% right. So this is how you solve. So once you solve A, which one did you go next to?
Where? Uh, 3 minutes. Which one is it? Wait a minute. Wait, so I'm still looking for my thingy, ne? I'll come back to you now.
Okay, no, it's okay. We can skip that part. So I just wanted to find out from all of you guys, through the raise of a hand, how would you solve for F? I want you to give me a pattern that you will use to solve for F. To say that this is the pattern or this is the way that I'm going to follow to solve for F. We don't have to write it down, just give me a pattern. How would you solve for F?
So
Yes?
I think for F you would plus E 104 and 60, you add them together.
No, I need the pattern. Remember E, it's blank. So I want the pattern to say that before we solve for E, this is what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to get this, and then from there I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to come to F. Because
So
you can't solve F because there is a missing gap under C, and there is also a missing gap on E. So which pattern do you follow to solve for F? There are
I
two
think
patterns.
to figure out, you'd have to figure out C.
You have to figure out C first,
Yes.
and then from there,
And then once you get C, then you could find F.
okay, and which other pattern can you follow?
Another pattern
Yes.
for F. Another pattern for F would be you would add E.
So you find E, and then what next?
104,
So
and then also add 60 together, and then take that number and subtract it from 380.
so that is the second pattern. So this is how you get to solve concept, like to find the missing figure. So even in finance, there's gonna come a time where you will be given a scenario where you actually get to have to solve the missing figure by actually looking at something first and then move to the other one. So there will be a lot of missing gap of financial information, but when you have got the mentality to actually get to solve for X, you can apply that mentality to say that if I get to actually start at this point, I can actually get to reach to this point, which from this point, I can take the following direction, and then it will give me the answer that I'm looking for under this specific point. Like for example, under this one, I was asking about F. So you can start by solving for C since everything within February is there except for C. Or you can start by solving everything for 1.5 minutes where you get to calculate the total for E. And then once you have the total for E, you can use the totals only column to solve for F. So those are ways that you can play around to actually get to solve one problem. So one problem sometimes can have multiple ways to be able to achieve that. Then same applies to solving for A. Some people cannot say, let me go and say 40 plus 31, then subtract it from 104. Some will actually go and say, no, let me actually just use the balance, the totals. From totals, then they actually reverse, depending on how your mentality gets to work and how you get to see points in a faster method. So that will all depend on how fast did you build up your mentality in terms of mathematical thinking. So when you apply math and you practice more, your skills for looking for loopholes becomes much faster, and you get to process information at a faster rate than a normal person who doesn't get to use mathematics on their daily life. So that is all in terms of finding for X. So normally when you see this thing that we used to actually perform, this kind of equation that we used to perform back then when we were growing up, 3x minus 5 equals to 16. So some of these were actually trying to assist you to build that mentality to be able to come up to solve scenarios like this, to say that if you are having a company and you lost some transaction within or some source documents which are the transaction which are leading to that transaction, you did capture the transaction but did not complete, or the transaction was performed but you didn't receive the document, and meaning that on your side you didn't capture it but your bank is reflecting the amount you actually get to receive from that particular transaction. So meaning that you can actually get to solve that, to say that where do I start? Do I start from the bank? You start from the bank, you find the missing figure, then from the missing figure you take a look in terms of your inventory, or you take a look in terms of the services that you render, to say that no, this month I rendered 10 services, but here it's actually showing 9. That's when you get to solve from there and say, okay, the balance that is remaining, I can actually get this because I rendered this service for 400 or 500 per hour, which means I was there for 2 hours, that's 1000. So therefore, we still have short by this much. So meaning that whatever is remaining will be from inventory that we actually get to sell, meaning that our inventory will sell it for 1000, meaning that the remaining 1000 that is missing is from our inventory that we sold. So in inventory, it's showing that we sold this much. So that's the kind of scenario that we come across when you're dealing with a business. So you get to lose some papers and you forget which transaction was performed and how was it performed. But because you're gonna be having a system showing you that okay, you actually went where, and you're gonna be tracking all the records, some of the records, you'll be able to track down and be able to calculate the missing figure or the missing element, to say that this is what's missing within here, and this is how much on, this is where it's coming from. So this is where all the missing figure comes into play. So normally these ones are also assisting us in that, to say that 3x minus 5 equals to 16, to say that there is a value here which is from x, which when we multiply it with the value of 3, it gives us a specific amount, and then we only took 5 out of there, and then we're left with 16. So what was the value of those items? For example, we found that to say that we bought 3 boxes, and when we bought 3 boxes, we only use 5 from those boxes, and now our stock is showing that we only have 16 items left. So the question is to say how many were in that box, in each box. So that will be 3x if you bought 3 boxes. So you no longer have boxes. Everything have been opened. It's on the floor. You no longer know how many items did you actually buy. So but you actually know that you are left with 16 items. So what actually happened is that you're gonna ask yourself to say that how many were in that box. So the question is to find how many were in that box. So you know that you bought 3 boxes, so we're gonna go and say 3x minus 5 equals to 16, which is remaining. Therefore, we're going to say 3x, then would you take the minus 5 to the other side, it will be 16 plus 5, giving us 21, which is what is being done here. And therefore, for us to get x, we'll go and say everything divided by 3. Therefore, this side is gonna cancel and go and say x is equal to 21 divided by 3. Therefore, it's gonna give us 7, meaning that each box had 7 items, so therefore x is equals to 7. So meaning that 7 times 3 is gonna give us the number of items that we actually bought in total. When we subtract 5, it's gonna give us 16. So that's how it is. So that's the mathematic, meaning that our box actually had items that are equaling to 21, and we only used 5. That gives us 16 as a remaining balance. So those are the type of scenarios that you're gonna come across and play around. So that's what we call finding the missing figure or finding x. And then now we have got average. Before we start with average, is there anyone with a question? Questions? Maybe I'm moving too fast. Question? No question. Okay, then we're gonna move to average. So we use average to actually get to estimate, to say that we want to see the most average performance, to say that this is the closest student managed to get, or this is the student managed to score somewhere in between plus or minus the following amount. So if we were to say that these were the marks of the students, if we were to say these were the marks of the student, so meaning that we were to say that if we're to calculate the average for section A to see how much did the student score, so we're gonna get a specific amount here. That specific amount is not what all the students score. It's just gonna give us an indication to say that the student managed to score plus somewhere in between plus and minus this amount, meaning that they are not far away from this amount and they are not too much far away from this amount by the marks that they score, meaning that they score maybe plus 10% more of this mark and minus 10% of this mark. So if we take a look in terms of attendance days within this class test report. So here it says that attendance, there were 10 days to attend class, and these are the number of students: student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4, and student 5. Student 1 attended 10 days, student 2 attended 8 days, student 3 4 days, student 4 9 days, student 5 3 days. So in total, all their attendance combined are 34. So to calculate the average attendance by students, so what we do is that we go and take and sum all the attendance of the students, then divide by the number of students that are there. So we have got a total of 34. So on our scenario, we're gonna go and say, I'm just gonna look for my calculator. So we're gonna go and say 10 plus 8 plus 4 plus 9 plus 3, giving us 34, divide by the number of students, which is 5. So meaning that the average attendance by student is actually 6.8. So this 6.8 is out of 10, because the number of days that we're taking a look into is 10 days. So the average attendance is 6.8. So if you round off this to the nearest days, it will be 7 days, meaning that the minimum there is a minimum or average of 7 days that student attended. So if we take a look, this one attended more than 7 days, this one attended more than 7 days, this one attended more than 7 days. So 3 out of 5 students actually attended more than 7 days, which is above 50% of all the students, which is 5 students. And this one are not far away from 7 days, and this one is not far away from 7 days. So 7 days is just where we get to say that this is the best attendance rate by the student. Normally we expect them to attend 7 days over the next coming test for April. So, and then we have got two types of percent of average. We've got the average that is based on information that you are calculating from, which is this one, which is 10 days. So this is based on over 10 days. And therefore we've got average in percentage. So if you want average in percentage, you're gonna take the one that is based on information provided, divide by the base of that information. In this case, it's 10 days. So therefore, multiply this by 100. So on our case, it's going to be 6.8 divided by 100. Therefore, so divide by 10 multiplied by 100, giving us 68% as an average in percentage. And then we also have got the one for section A. So I want you guys to just perform the section A1. Please perform section A. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to perform the average and then the average in percentage. For section A, section A is showing to say that for this test that the student wrote, section A was out of 50, and these are the marks that the student actually get to score, and this is the total number of all marks that the student managed to score. So calculate the average for me and the average percentage. I'm giving you guys 2 minutes to do that.
Sir, did you say section A only?
If you are done with section A, okay, Ntombi, I'll give you section B, and Handsome Muremi section A, and Sikelana, I'll give you section C, and Sema, please do the total. Is it Sima? Sima, I want you to do the total. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Sima, you can do the total. So I'm gonna give you another 30 seconds. Okay, times is up. Let's start with who's doing section A. Muremi, handsome Muremi. What is your average?
So for the 29.4,
And what is your average in percentage?
58.8%,
And to the nearest percentage?
60%.
No, nearest percentage, not nearest 10 percentage.
So
Nearest percentage, not 10 percentage.
yes, so what does it mean?
If that was rand, I say to the nearest. If that was 58 rand, 80 cent, and say round off to the nearest rand, what will be the final answer?
So
Now, if I'm saying that 58.8 percentage
Yes, sir.
I'm saying that if it was 58 rand, 80 cent, and I said round off to the nearest rand, what will
Or
be your final?
59.
Yes. So that's rounding
Oh,
off to the nearest percentage. So
oh,
that's 1%.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That's 100% correct. Mapula, section B.
So
Yes,
I
that was
don't
good.
know if it's my network connection, but I cannot see the slide we are on or the numbers you're talking about.
That's the network connection on your side. That means that you have to refresh the screen. Tombi, can you assist?
Yes, sir. The average that I got was 20.2,
Okay, you
and the
said,
percent I got was 6%.
and it's about
I'm saying the average I got was 20%,
20%.
for each percentage.
Okay, for this, I don't remember the percentage for this, but I'm just gonna quickly calculate it with you, for you in a fast way. Okay,
Mhm.
you said you get 20.2,
Yes, I got 20.2.
and your percentage,
My percentage, uh, yeah, I got 20%.
you got 20%.
Yes.
How did you get 20%?
I said 20.2 over 101 times 100 to get the percentage.
No, what is the base for section B?
The base,
Yes,
what do you mean by base, sir?
the base is here. It's out of 30. Section B, it's out of 30.
Oh, sorry, sir. I think,
No,
oh, I
no,
was using total.
no, not a problem. And Sikelani is section C. Sikelani or Silicana. Okay, Sima, totals. What did we get?
I got 63.2 average.
62.3. Let's see, total we've got 63.2, right? And in percentage,
So if I divided that by 100 and then still multiplied by 100, it came back to 63.2.
okay, that's 100% right. So since
Okay.
yours are already in 100, you don't actually have to recalculate the one in percentage because it's already under 100. So you just place it like that. So Tombi, I still see your hand, it's up.
Yes, sir. So I recalculated it. I got 67.3% for the average fee.
Yes, that's 100% right. So one of the most important thing now in terms of the average is that you will be given information and there will be a base of that information. If this was in percentage, to say this is 10%, 8%, 4%, 9%, 3%, when you calculate the average of all of this, it will automatically be in percentage because all of these are in percentage. But if this is out of 10, this means that your average is based on out of 10. And since this is out of 50, everything that you're going to calculate as an average will be based on out of 50. So there are two methods to calculate the average. So the other one that I was using here, it's sort of like it's not advanced or complicated, but it just requires your more understanding of mathematics. So what I just did is that we have got 34 as the total of all of these. So what I just did is that I also said if this is out of 10 and out of 10 and out of 10 and out of 10 and out of 10. So that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So meaning that the base for this 34 is out of 50. So therefore 34 out of 50 will actually give me an average that is gonna be 34 out of 50 will give me an average that is gonna automatically goes to percentage. So this one is already in percentage. If you see 0.68, it's equivalent to 68%. But since my information is based on 10, so I'll just have to multiply this by 10 to get the base of out of 10. Then it will give me 6.8. Same applies to this one. So here it's out of 50. So everything is gonna be 50, 50, out of 50, out of 50, out of 50, out of 50. That's 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, meaning that this is 147 out of 250. So I'll get exact percentage already by doing that, which is 0.588. So if I round it to the nearest percentage, that will be 59%. And since I want this to the nearest average based on the information provided, so therefore I'll go and look in terms of the base. So everything is out of 50, so I'll just multiply this by 50. Then it will give me the average becoming 24.29.4. So that is in terms of average. And one of the most important thing about calculating average, if all these scores here are all 80, the average it still becomes to 80. So it's the same as saying 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 5 times and say divide by 5. So if all of them had 1 mark and then they are 5, if you said 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is going to say 5 divided by 5, giving you the same mark. So same applies to say if they all scored 80, the average will actually be 80. So please also take the practice on the textbook. And then now we also have got what we call powers and exponent. So in terms of powers and exponent, I'm just going to explain the rules or terminology that applies in the exponents, the powers or exponents, and the roots. So in terms of exponents, when you multiply two variables with the same base, you can actually add the exponents to say that if it is x squared m multiplied by x squared to the power n, you can actually go and say x is equals to m plus n. So on your textbook, so this is the part it was explaining in terms of average to say that if everything is in percentage, whatever average that you're going to calculate is going to come back under as a percentage because the base is a percentage. So you can practice with other questions. So here we are under exponents. So here I was saying that if the base is the same, to say all the base is x, and therefore if the base is x, you can actually go and say m multiplied by n and m plus n. So that's the basic rule number 1 under exponents. So if this information that you are seeing here, we call it to the power of, it's an exponent. So m is referred as an exponent, and when we read it out loud, we say x to the power of m. So I believe you're already familiar with that terminology. And then if the exponent is the same, then we go and say x to the power of 2 multiplied by x to the power of 4. It's the same as going and say x to the power of 2 plus 4. So in real maths, I'm just going to open up one of the calculator, scientific calculator that I have here online. So I'm just going to quickly make a use of a real example of numbers so that you can see. So if we said 5 squared, sorry about that, 5 squared multiplied by 5 to the power of 4. So if you said 5 squared, it's gonna give you 25. But if you said 5 to the power of 4, it's gonna give you another answer, which right now, let me see how much is it. So 5 squared will give you 625. So if you say 625 multiplied by 25, 625 multiplied by 25, it will actually give you 15,625, which is the same as going and say, instead of me saying 5 squared multiplied by 5 to the power of 4. So what I'll go and say is that 5 is the same as saying 5 to the power of 2 plus 4, giving us 6. So if I say 5 to the power of 6, it will still give me 15,625. So this is the mathematic rule behind the exponent, where the base is the same. So instead of you just calculating first what is x squared and what is x to the power of 4, you can actually start by adding the exponent and then go and say x to the power of 6. That's my answer. Or then you calculate the final answer using your calculator. So, or this is what you simplify it to become x to the power of 6. And then you cannot simplify where bases are not the same, where the other one is saying 5 to the power of 2 and 4 to the power of 4. You cannot simplify that and go and say let's add the exponent, because the base are not actually the same, so you cannot add the exponent. Rule number 2, it says that when you have an exponent expression that is raised to the power, you can multiply the exponent and the power. So if to say x squared multiplied by n, so meaning that it's going to be x to the power of m multiplied by n. So this is another rule that plays within. So this is the rule. So meaning that if you have 5 to the power of 2 and outside bracket it's 4, so you're gonna go and say 2 multiplied by 4, giving you 8. Therefore it's gonna be 5 to the power of 8, and then you calculate your answer. So that is the simplification that you can perform if your base is unknown. The third one is to say that if you have a product inside the parenthesis, which is inside the brackets, and the power of the parenthesis, then the power goes on each element, to say that if you have got xy to the inside or outside brackets to the power of 2, therefore you're gonna go and say x, the final answer or simplification will be x squared and y squared. Or you can actually get to simplify this based on this one that is here to say x y squared to the or close brackets to the power of 3. So meaning that this 3 is saying that this information is multiplying itself 3 times. So therefore your final answer will be x3y to the power of 6, which is 2 multiplied by 3, giving you 6. And this is x to the power of 3. Sorry, it's x to the power of 3, not x3y. And then the other thing is that anything to the power of 0 will give you 0, and anything to the power of 1 will be 1, and any place where it's x, it's that number to the power of 1 over 2. It is the same as the square root of that number. So going back to my calculator, if I said okay, that's not it. If I'd said 5, let me use 16. 16 to the power of 1 over 2 is the same as saying the square root of 16. So if I say equals to, it's gonna give me 4. So if I still go and say square root of 16, it's still gonna give me 4. So this half to the power of 1 out of 2 is the same as to say the square root of that particular number. And if it says 1 out of 3, if it says 16 to the power 1 out of 3, so this is the same as using a cubic square root. So we call it a cubic square root. So if you see something like this, so you can actually convert this into a cubic root to say if this is the amount, therefore my answer is 2.5198. So it's the same as going and say cubic root of 16, which is gonna give you 2.5198. So this only works if we have got a fraction 1 over. And if your exponent is a negative amount, for example, to say that 4 to the power of minus 1. So this negative that you're actually seeing here, we refer it as something like this. You can remove that negative by putting 1 over and then put that number with that exponent within, to say that if it was 4 to the power of 1, so that will be 1 over 4 if it's just only to the power of negative 1. But if to the negative of, if it was like 4 to the power of negative 2. So when we write this down, or we can simplify this to say that this is therefore the negative change to 1 over. So the negative change to 1 over, sorry, to 1, not this, please. It changes to 1 over 4 to the power of 2. So that negative becomes 1 over. So you can simplify that equation as this. Same applies to this. So if I said equals to, under this one, I'll get the answer as 0.0625, which is the same as me writing it or expressing this 4 over to the power of negative 2, which is equals to 0.0625, which is the same method. So this is the application or rules of exponents. So this is the summary of all of them. So please make sure that you just check them out, you remember them, and then you can use them when you get to find yourself where you're going to be working with exponents, especially if you have to draw graphs and diagram, or you have to plot a data within your for a presentation. So your data will also give you an equation to say that the equation for this data that you plotted is the following and the exponent is this much. So you can still be able to simplify that equation if the exponent is on a negative, and therefore make sure that it's 1 over that whole number and to the power of that for this. So anything here, if it's to the power of 1, here it's the 1 is there, but we cannot put it because now it's just to the power of positive 1. So it will be the same as just saying 1 over 3. So I think that is all in terms of today's lesson. Does anyone have got any question? Any question? Any question, guys, for today's lesson? Yes, Ntombi?
I wanted to ask, are we allowed to send you our answers for the activity?
Sorry?
Are we allowed to send you the answers for the activity that we do in the textbook to you via email?
If you're practicing and you get to stuck, you can send me your attempt and you specify which section that you are struggling with to understand, and I will be able to assist you.
Oh, okay.
And if what you are requesting is not something that I can assist through writing back, I will actually get to set up an appointment with you, which is going to be either online or on campus, depending on your availability. If you want it on campus, since you are a contact student, where we get to meet in class.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Any other questions? Anyone with any other question? Okay, in absence of questions, that is all for today. Please enjoy the rest of your day and the week. We'll meet on Friday online when we do lesson 6, which is gonna be a continuation with some other basic mathematics concept that you need to familiarize yourself with, which we're still gonna apply some of them in the next coming lesson in the future, from lesson I think 8 9. We're gonna be applying all of these basic concepts. So some of the concept will still be applied when we perform some accounting some other equation within finance. So that is all from my side. Enjoy the rest of your day.